Hello everybody, welcome back to my Pokemon review series. Now, this video may be a little bit odd because you may be hearing me a bit more than usual. I was just let know by Connor Rogerson 7675 that the audio was a bit lower in my other videos, and if you go back to them, you can just crank up their volume and you will be able to hear me, but from here on out, I'm actually recording at a volume so that I should be audible, actually, at how most people listen to YouTube videos. So, in this video, I'm talking about the Marowak. Now, Marowak, I think, is another example of a pretty sad Pokemon in this game. I think it is among the worst berry specialists in the game. I think a lot of people give this guy more credit than he really deserves. And that's just because a lot of people caught them early on for top, specifically. And it is pretty strong at top. The problem with him is that he's just kind of outclassed. So let's get into it. So, you got the Slumbering Sleep type, which, as of right now, it seems that that's breaking the rules. Typically speaking, ground types. Here's the weird thing. Ground types, we only have two lines in the game, as of right now. And those are the Diglett line and the Cubone line. So we only have two examples, and one is snoozing, the other is slumbering. So we can't really say what ground types are supposed to be, what the majority are, because they're perfectly 50-50 slumbering and snoozing. However, there are 6 types that are in dozing, 6 types that are in slumbering, and 6 types that are for sure in slumbering. Meanwhile, the ground type could be in snoozing or slumbering, and if it were to be in slumbering, then there'd be 6, 5, and 7. Meanwhile, if it was in snoozing, it'd be 6, 6, and 6, so it'd be balanced across the board. I think that's much more likely, so if that is the case, then this is an exception to the rule. I don't know what their lore reasoning for why the Marowak would slumber a bit more than other ground types, but it's just an interesting quirk. I like to look at that and think what's going on there, but it's got the berry specialty, the ground type berry specialist. As you can see here, one of the first things that I think makes the Marowak worse than other options is the Charge Energy S main skill. I don't really like the skill on the berry specialists. It just kind of gets wasted, and it feels like they don't even have a main skill, in my opinion. Because the energy for everyone Pokemon and your sleep sessions should be keeping their energy at a fair value, so having this is just kind of excessive. Now, another thing that goes into making the Marowak a bit more on the weaker end of the berry specialists, 22.5% ingredient rate with a 58-minute speed. 58-minute, 20-second speed with the 22.5% ingredient rate. That's a decently high ingredient rate for the berry specialist. We've seen higher. I don't remember exactly what the Raichu's is, but I know the Raichu's is also pretty high, 22.4, so comparable to the Raichu. The thing is, the Raichu has like 2/3 the speed, or 2/3 the help time that the Marowak has, so running at about the same ingredient rate with much, much lower speed. This guy just isn't kicking out that many berries, which is really what he wants to be doing. And especially now, I don't remember what's the Figgy Berry's base value. 29. 29's a little bit on the higher end. I kind of think of like 27, 28 as the midpoint for berry value, roughly, like the average berries. So it's a little bit on the higher end. So it is especially harmed by a higher ingredient rate than Pokemon like Raichu, who have the weaker berries. So, all in all, just a whole bunch of things that are kind of harming this guy and preventing him from really being at the top of his game. Now, if he's making this many ingredients, though, maybe there's some potential for, like, a dual berry ingredient specialist sort of thing if he's got some synergistic ingredients. Almost kind of what I'm always recommending with the Neroli's tea on the Raichus. Maybe there's some potential here. So, if we want to dive into ingredient synergy, which I normally don't think about this on the berry specialists, but it's something to sometimes consider. Now, what does the Marowak get? It's got ginger and cacao exclusively. That does make it easier to get the ingredient list that you're looking for. So if you're considering running this guy, maybe you actually do consider the ingredient list on it. I'm not saying you have to, but if you want to use the Marowak, maybe you do consider what this is going to be on top of your sub-skills for the berries, because other options are just going to do the berries better. So if you want this guy to be unique in comparison, then maybe be looking for this. But what combo, I guess, is the best here? Well, if we look at raw value, the ABB list is the best. The cocoa at every level is the stronger option than having the ginger. But synergy, I think, is what's more important. And when we look through here, you could have him as a mono ginger option if you want to have him be your pseudo ingredient guy. But if you look down here, the only real synergy that we have between the ginger and the cocoa is the steadfast ginger cookies. Now, this is a pretty strong meal. Not the best, but if you can run this middling meal off of being covered by berry specialists primarily, especially at top, there's quite possibly a lot of strength and value in running this meal. So if you can find someone that produces just a little bit of eggs, which 4 eggs a day, or 12 eggs a day, small enough that you could easily like cover that with Altaria with decent speed stats if you have the right ingredient list. Or you could run like Abomasnow or Delibird would be a bit excessive for this. It's a very small egg requirement, so you can even get it with Togekiss probably if it's got mono eggs, and have a little fun with the metronome skill. Honey, you're probably going to be looking for an actual ingredient specialist for this, but then maybe you just run two Marowaks and get the ginger and the cacao from them. And then you can be running 2 berry specialists, maybe 3 if you're running an Altaria, along with a berry specialist, or the ingredient specialist for the honey, and an energy for everyone Pokemon, and then bam, steadfast ginger cookies. But what's the reality of this? I mean, if you do the production comparison, I made up this like decent, actually really strong Marowak with got the helping speed M and a help speed up nature. Just plugged it in for level 60 because this is like what's reasonable, especially if you're targeting the right ingredient list. I think this is like the upper bound of what's reasonable for a Marowak speed. You're not going to be looking for ingredient finding stats on this Marowak, even though you're looking for ingredients to maybe make it unique compared to, say, Typhlosion. You're still not looking for ingredients because that still is harmful to them. It's still the berries you're getting the value from. It's the ingredients that are making it unique and giving a unique identity separate from the Typhlosion. But even in this case, it's producing 22 ginger a day, 9 cacao a day, and that's still, like, you're only making these ginger cookies, like, twice in a day. It's not quite covering all 3 meals. So you'd have to really run 2 of them if you get the right combo. And if you think about if you have them, go for it. If you have even the mono ginger, if you happen to already have these in your box, then you know what? Maybe it's worth investing into and building the team around them. I would never recommend hunting them for this purpose, though, because there are just stronger options in both the berry finding and producing these dishes. This guy, if you have the mono ginger at level 60, produces 31 ginger a day. That's enough for 10 every meal. So if you consider that, I mean, you can get enough for the restorative tea, theoretically. You can get enough for the overheat ginger salad. You can get enough for the spicy leek curry. So you can cover the ginger requirement of these decent meals with a berry specialist. But unless you already have it, it's not strong enough to hunt for him. Especially with just how bad of a berry specialist he is. If I go into the Pokedex here, and I just use fully evolved berry specialists, you can see that he is the bottom of the barrel. The very last one. Now, I actually would prefer the Marowak to the Arbok, because as of right now, the Arbok does not have an island. So at least the Marowak has top going for him, where he is third He does rank 3rd. Actually 4th. Onyx isn't on here because he's not fully evolved, but if I was to allow for Onyx, you'd see that he is the... Well, I didn't even know this. He's the 5th producer. That really shows you how weak he is. He's outranked by Quailava. That's a surprise to me, because I almost never have final evolutions. I almost never have it that I see not fully evolved Pokemon. And this is without a ribbon, man. Man, if I give him a ribbon, that Quailava... Okay, apparently with the ribbon it beats out Ninetales too, but that's a whole different interesting discussion. Huh. Anyway. So yeah, Marowak, just really, really sad. Even at its own island, it's got a lot of options that ridiculously outclass it for berries. So if it's trying to find a unique identity, it's got to rely on its ingredients just because it's producing so many more ingredients than it really wants to be. So yeah, now where can you hunt the Marowak if you're really looking for it? If you like Marowak and you want to hunt him despite his bad stats, then Top is really going to be your place. It apparently also exists at Snowdrop. I don't know about the Cubone. Let's see. Yeah, the Cubone's also at Top and Snowdrop, so you can find it at either of those locations. It's also at Greengrass. However, Greengrass isn't really the optimal place for hunting anything in particular. So, yeah. It's got an inventory. I guess I didn't mention the inventory. It's easy to evolve, level 21, 40 candy. That's pretty easy to evolve. So maybe as an early game option if you find a pretty good Cubone. But it's got a 15 inventory that becomes 20 after evolution, 28. So even a smaller inventory size as well. Yeah. That's pretty much everything there is to be said about the Marowak. I wouldn't ever recommend it unless you just like it, but thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something.